We are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my thoughts on Young Jedi Adventures, Season 2, Episode 6, Battle for the Band / Uprooted. So I am not sure I have a huge amount to say about the first episode, and I just realized I forgot. Right, so before I get into it, the episode is for like age 7 and up, so will this video be. There will be spoilers for the episode and Star Wars leading up to it. And yeah, another good to great episode. But yeah, so the first story, yeah, really appreciate this thing of, everyone can be a hero in their own way. Everybody can contribute in some way. And yeah, he doesn't, it's not really violence that he, because that would feel weird if he was suddenly just like amazing at that. But yeah, he works with what he's familiar with. And yeah, I thought they did a good job with that. I guess I'll just briefly say throughout the, both stories, great action. I don't know if they meant to have this much robot action in just one episode, but I don't mind. It was fun. It was fun. And let's see, then we have the the I did think it was a little weird that, several of the Gangles walk in, and then I think it's Hap who says, "Who says?" And then the leader of the Gangles walks in and says, "We says." The Gangles. And it's like, I mean, kids who've watched the other episodes with the Gangles will recognize, I feel like that would have worked better if they were like in shadow or something. So it was just like, oh, someone's doing something and threatening, but we can't quite make out the voice or something. But yeah, Hap feels like he should have done something. He's like, it was horrible, which I guess means that before they left, there's like a deleted scene of the Gangles showing Hap part of the holiday special. But yeah, he comes with, and thank goodness for that. And yeah, they leave. They're bringing the band back to Tanu. They're on a mission from Hap. And yeah, clever to disguise, although, I appreciate, I'm sure the kids watching get a real kick out of how obviously fake the droid disguise that Nubs is wearing is. It's like, okay, how can they not see right through this? Like, he's barely even concealed a lot of the time. But yeah, they're trying, and one guy who actually does work there's like, "I haven't seen you before." Now, that is a thing you got to be careful about in stealth games. But yeah, Hap said, "Would you like a cold, refreshing beverage?" Which technically was set up. They did say, was it? I think it might have been the Hutt, and I am afraid I do not remember his name. So yeah, yep. Everyone there would like something cold and refreshing. I guess Star Wars can only go so long without having a Hutt. Perhaps especially on a barge, like, original trilogy, prequel trilogy. I guess not sequel trilogy, I don't think. It's been a little while, and I did only watch those movies twice each. The Clone Wars, yeah, and now this. I think the guy doing the voice is hold on, I have it here. Jason Mantzoukas. I feel like I know that name, but I can't quite. Yeah, he seems like he's having fun. I don't know if the character is supposed to be similar to someone like I know a lot of people did not like the Hutt on the Clone Wars. I do appreciate. I mean, in George Lucas's youth. Holy crap! Am I seriously? I remember the name like 5 minutes before I hit record. I swear I'm not going to spend forever on it. Yeah, it might just be gone. But yeah, it was the voice and mannerisms were of that Hut in the Clone Wars was very very similar to someone who was a big deal when George Lucas was young, and that's a lot of Star Wars, especially under Lucas. And I realize he had not as much control over the Clone Wars as some of the other stuff, but yeah, um, yeah, the I I don't know if this Hut is also similar to something from George Lucas's youth. I guess him not speaking Huttese is for the kids. I mean, yeah, the one on the Clone Wars didn't speak Huttese either. At least most of the time. Yeah. Um, I think that pretty well gets us to. Yeah. Nicely done on the Chekhov's robots being activated. They're standing there like, well, you can have the band, I can have the robots. Like, oh, robots, come on, fight some Jedi. One thing I did think so the band play under duress for the Hut, and then again at the end of the not the episode, but that story, that the first half of the episode. I really think they missed an opportunity to. They should have had the band play like worse under duress, like communicating. Hey, if you try to force someone to do something, they're not gonna. It's not gonna be their best work. You should inspire them instead. Um, I don't know. Is that too radical of a? This show has, in some of these episodes, been getting less willing to go far left. Which is kind of ridiculous. Star Wars has always been very far left. Anyway, long before Disney. Yeah, the Disney are actually some of the more risk averse when it comes to. Anyway, I am getting off the soapbox. Yeah, so I just thought it would make me look taller. Anyway, yeah, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to have to record two different versions of the piece of music, because they even have the band are like, are the binders full of bands really necessary? And of course that's not set up for their playing worse because they're under duress. It's set up for there's a reason why they don't just like run. The Jedi are going to have to either cut those or use the keys, not the cheese. I've been watching too much of Low recently because when they jump into the ship and there's like these two containers that they run over, I'm thinking, oh, that's where the British Airmen are this episode. Yeah, I think that pretty well covers it. Yeah, that brings us to the second part. Now, I am trying not to overanalyze, and I appreciate maybe it's just like, or not just, maybe what it is like agoraphobia. But I will say, I definitely read both Lynn and Canty. I remember it because the silly pun they did with her name. I read both of them as being coded as being on the autism spectrum. This thing of, I appreciate, everybody, neurotypicals as well, want to stay in the comfort zone and such. But, like, they pushed it far enough that it felt like, yeah. And, this is neutral to positive representation. So I quite appreciate that. Yeah. It really is just, yeah, they want to stay where they feel safe, doing what they feel comfortable with. They don't really want to go out, but then when they do, they realize they actually like it, even though it's scary at times. And they did do a decent job of, like, Canty is basically like what Lynn could end up as if she's not careful. And I do think they pushed it a tiny bit too far. She was a little bit too much of a joke character for, I mean, it is kind of serious if she's genuinely not living a full life because of, this, trait of hers. Um, but yeah, like by the end of the episode, they had done a good job of making her clearly sympathetic. Let's see the hmm yeah and you know, I am very much in favor of conservationism, not to be confused with conservatism. They're essentially the opposite of each other. You know, conservationism, you know, can help keep the Earth alive and us alive, and yeah, I think I've made my point. Let's see the yeah, very clever that, you know, she has to like run up the tree and like jump, you know, because the, you know, the direct path with the non-tree path is blocked by the robot, you know, the two paths. And I, you know, sometimes I'm kind of a mark for simple gag. I liked when Nubs uses his, you know, ridiculous strength, you know, Hulk-like strength, and then, you know, the fact that it doesn't actually, he doesn't win the fight because the robot keeps fighting, but the, you know, yeah. Um, but yeah, it was clever, this thing of, you know, grabbing one plant and then running outside so that Canty would follow, and she's not going to put down the plant because she's worried the kids are going to try to grab it. Uh, I will say I get that it's for 7-year-olds. I'm not trying to judge it based on, you know, how it is to watch if you're 3 decades older than that, but I did think they spent a little bit too much time just talking about, you know, like Canty saying no and them saying yes. I don't know. I guess it is somewhat straightforward, uh, you know, concept. I don't know. I think if they had spent that, if they had trimmed that down, as you know, can be useful for plant life, and instead spent it on more like visual, like adventure, like they could have spent a little time. I think they spent enough on Lynn, but they could have had Canty interact with a couple of things, because it did also feel like, I mean, it's clearly like bright sunny day, and then they're like, okay, let's go, you know, plant the thing. It cuts, and then it's just like night, you know, suddenly nighttime. That felt like, yeah, I don't know, maybe they were like, maybe there was a budget cut or something, and they had to find some way to, you know, so, you know, yeah, something visual and interesting became just talking. I think that does pretty well cover it. Yeah. I thought there was a lot of really great stuff here. I think it is extremely important to convey to children, you know, yeah, I mean, you're not going to go on like a cool mission as a child, although there are kid characters on the show who do that, but you can still, you know, help. I forget who it was, but I did see someone say, you know, when they were a kid and they watched the original trilogy, they really identified with R2D2 because everyone like yells at, you know, R2 and is like considers him annoying, but he does come through and he does really help. You know, there are situations in the original trilogy where the heroes would not have been successful if not for R2, and that's, yeah, that was something they could relate to. So yeah, this is continuing on that tradition and just like spelling it out a little bit, you know. And yeah, uh, I know people on the autistic spectrum who have benefited greatly from, you know, and it's important, you know, they should not be forced to. I'm terrible at remembering names. There's a really excellent YouTuber who talked about how the, like, basically, you know, because of capitalism, the dominant theory is, oh, well, you know, so the autistic people don't like this, but, you know, it makes them more useful for, you know, capitalist machine, which some people think has to keep running. So yeah, you know, a lot of autistic people are sadly, you know, forced into things that they're really uncomfortable with and end up being upset about for a while after. Obviously, you don't want to do that. But it can be, let them take it at their own pace, but do make sure they think about, I mean, there are a lot of amazing things out there, especially in nature. And yeah, I know it's a trope. I think it's a trope for a reason. This thing of having a character who thinks everything is great for them, and then they see like what they could become, and they change their ways. Let's see, because like if Lynn had not met Canty, then by the end of the episode she would be right back there and saying oh, it was too scary, a mouse jumped on my head, yeah. I think that does pretty well cover it. Yeah. Let's see, yeah. I am trying to avoid dead air whilst also thinking of a fun way to end the video, and I just realized, yeah, that's it. The Hutt on the Clone Wars. The voice and mannerisms resembled Truman Capote. And, it's frustrating that a bunch of people responded with homophobia at that, because, like, I mean, to be sure, if you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community and you found the depiction offensive, I am not here to tell you that you're wrong. But the fact that a bunch of cishet people saw that and, because they did, it's possible that some said that they thought it was homophobic. What I saw was a lot of people just expressing homophobia and being like, keep those people out of my Star Wars. And it's like, do you even know anything about George Lucas? Like, he was basically a hippie. And you're complaining about, like, just, yeah. Holy crap. Yeah, I don't know. If you are aware of some individual, some like celebrity or such from George Lucas's youth that this Hutt in this episode is resembling in some way, please let me know in the comments down below. Do not put it in the comments up above, because that's not where comments go. Like, maybe you're in the like search bar or something, and typing it in there is not going to be conducive to me reading it.